Hi, my name is Bethany Mitchell, and today I will be discussing ergonomic and adaptive devices used in occupational therapy interventions for rheumatoid arthritis. Rheumatoid arthritis is a systemic and autoimmune disease that attacks joints as well as all other organs in the body. The body produces cytokines that break down the hyaline cartilage in the joint. This leads to bone-on-bone contact as well as brittleness in the bones, and the joints become extremely fragile. The body has an all or nothing response with muscle contraction. It poses a danger to broken down joints. As the joints curl, such as and bend, such as in a hand curling like this, tissue, even skin, that becomes tight around the joint is dangerous to the bones in the joint. It can cause bones to chip. It can even cause the whole joint to fracture. So the OT intervention for OA is to modify tools to allow for lighter grip, thus decreasing the intensity of this all or nothing response of the muscles. There are two main focuses for OT interventions. The first is energy conservation, and the second is the protection of the joints. The progression of RA leads to breakdown of the joint structures, which then leads to decreased function. Daily activities require simple motor skills, and these will become difficult, even impossible in daily life. ADLs such as buttoning pants and brushing hair, IADLs such as using a knife while cooking or holding onto a steering wheel while driving. Leisure activities including holding a garden hose or holding a hand of cards while playing a game. Excuse me. For work and school, holding a phone or holding a pen while writing and taking notes, even typing. Even at rest, manipulating the lever on your recliner or pushing the buttons on a remote. Decreased mobility will also decrease interaction with hobbies, with family, friends. Maintaining independence is a high priority for arthritis clients. For my intervention, I am focusing on built-up handles. Built-up handles, as I mentioned above, allow for a lighter grip for the client. They increase the circumference of the handle, and this frees the muscles from such an intense all or nothing response. As I said, basically increased circumference equals decreased grip intensity and decreased stress on joints. I am going to build up 3 different handles for my demonstrations. First, I'm going to build up a transferable universal utensil handle. And one of the reasons why I have chosen a transferable universal one is because I believe in the sanitation of utensils. Nothing that is made at home can really be fully sanitary. So when washing a utensil, this needs to be removed. Okay. Second of all, if a client is very particularly exhausted or in a great deal of pain, you don't want them to have to perhaps find that specialized tool in order to eat their soup and clean it. You just want them to be able to grab a spoon, slide it into their built-up handle, and eat so they can get some energy and some rest. Again, decreasing energy use, energy conservation. Second, I will build up the handle on a pen. And then lastly, we'll take a little field trip out to my garden and we will build up the handle on a hose. The reason I picked all 3 of these is that they have different materials and different needs for each of their environments and uses. For my first built-up handle, I'm going to make the universal utensil holder. Basically, I took a towel and I cut it in half. The first half of the towel is used right here. I then decided to take, having measured my fork already, and I measured it, as you can see down here. And I folded it in thirds, leaving a bit of a flap on the top. The reason that I did this is because the first time that I attempted this built-up handle, excuse me, I discovered that the utensil tended to push right through the handle. Now you need some quality resistance more than just the tape to keep the utensil from coming through. You want something to really hold it in there. So as you want to use your fork or whatever utensil you choose to wrap it around to ensure that you actually have a hole. Otherwise, again, you kind of find yourself in a bit of a clinch. So wrap it nice and flat. Don't curl it, okay? Just create a nice flat surface. Roll it around. Do you see how I'm doing? And then pull your flap in after you've rolled a few times, after you've turned it, I should say, not roll it, because I just told you not to roll it. Turn it, right? And then you're going to want to kind of tuck it in just a little bit, not too much. Just ensure that it's firm, but not too tight, okay? Then as you get it here, we'll hold it like you would like tape would hold it, and then you're going to do a few samples. You're going to try stabbing. Sorry, I didn't want to stab my straight table. We're going to try stabbing here. So stab, right? Okay, so it didn't slip through, which is good. Can I pull it out and slip it back in? Excellent, I can. Can I go side to side? It's a little bit loose right here, but as I tape it, that's going to become more firm. Okay? All right, so I have decided that I am satisfied with this tuck and roll, and I am going to tape it. I've decided to use some blue. It is bright, but not too bright. I don't want it to be obnoxious for my clients. We don't need fluorescent yellow in the kitchen. However, you do want it to be visible so that they don't lose it. So I'm going to take off a decent chunk here, as you can see. And then we're going to take this. I'm going to set it right here. I think it's easier. I knew this was going to happen. We're going to try this one more time. Okay. Believe me, I am an expert duct taper, but I am on camera. So let's try this one more time. Here we go. Okay. So I am going to start right at the front, just like I should. I'm going to go just a few inches in so I can wrap this part of the duct tape over. And then I'm going to kind of angle it so I can spiral it up. Now I want the duct tape to be firm, okay? Pardon me. But I don't want it to be too tight, but I do want it to be nice and firm so that I don't have to worry about things slipping apart or anything like that, okay? We do want it to be padded, but we don't want it to be so squishy, okay? So again, a couple inches out, okay? And then we're gonna angle, tuck and tighten. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over the top, okay? But we also want to tuck over the top because we don't want this bit of toweling that we have flapped over to suddenly come popping out, okay? Again, you really can't use too much duct tape. Remember, this is somebody who really needs secure tools, okay? So make sure that you make it secure. We don't want something falling apart on them in the middle of the day when they need it, and then suddenly they have nothing to use. So make sure you go all around, okay? So now we have it here, built up handle. Easy slip in, slip out. I'm eating soup, not vegetables. Slip in, slip out. I need to stir my noodles or my soup when it's on the stove. Boom, bada bing. I need to wash all 3 of my utensils. Boom. So there you have it. A built-up universal handle for utensils in the kitchen. You notice I didn't do it for a knife. Part of the reason is I believe that a specialized tool is required for a knife just because they have their own fatter handles. So perhaps this is something you can start with and then just say to the client, you know, we can do a larger kitchen knife for cutting vegetables and such for cooking. Perhaps the next time when you tell me how this works and maybe some modifications that you want to make to this. So there we go. Now I have 2 built-up handles. Next, let's talk about our pen. Here we have. I have also taken just a simple rag. Okay. Everybody has rags around the house. Okay. I think I have more rags than I have towels. That's because I have some really messy children. So I have decided this time to use simply the towel. And the reason for that is that I just don't want to use duct tape to write. I think it's going to be really uncomfortable, especially if you get sweaty hand or something and it's going to slip. I don't like the thought of that, okay? So what we're going to do, I folded this in half just to give it a little more bulk. And I take this, okay, the pen, and I'm going to measure it out where I want it. This, again, is something that you can work with your client on, okay? Decide where you want it. I'm going to take the thin side. I think it's going to work better for my application. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a very thin piece of duct tape. Maybe. There we go. Okay. Little piece right here. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to duct tape it directly to the pen. Okay. There's a reason for this. Being such a narrow tool, you don't want the padding to slip. Now I noticed that I just put my pen too far down. So I'm going to unduct tape it and reduct tape it so that it's about like this. You see? So my padding, when I curl it around, it's going to be about right there. Excuse me. So as we turn this around, we're going to keep it really, really tight, okay? You do not want a pen grip that slips, okay? Now I'm angling it a little differently because I noticed that in the beginning, I'll show you, I had this sticking out. And that's going to be really uncomfortable on fingers. I always try to think when I'm doing things like this, if I was using this, would I like it? Okay. So here we have this grip. Now I put a little bit of thought into, and for some reason I can't, oh, there it is. Sorry. Put a little bit of thought into would I want this also to be duct taped. And I came to the conclusion that actually probably it would be best with a safety pin. Now, if I was doing this for an actual client, I think I would use a diaper pin because it has a lock on it and they're cheap, right? Okay, you can get diaper pins at the dollar store, like 2 for $1. But I don't have a diaper pin on hand anymore because my children don't wear diapers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that the head ends up at the top. You don't want fingers to be gripping the head of a safety pin. And I am going to leave, instead of trying to hide it, I'm going to make it really visible, okay? Because I don't want my client to suddenly be pressing fingers up against a really uncomfortable safety pin and not realize it and then come away with sore fingers. Safety pin, here we go. Okay, so now I have a built-up pen handle, okay, and I can write on a sheet of paper. Wahaha. Pen. Now let's take a field trip out to our garden. Hello, and welcome to my garden. You like my crocuses? I decided to make it a little bit springy and do it by some of my bulbs. Here is my hose, and the reason I decided to do this one is because gardening is very particularly important to me. It is my favorite leisure activity. I practically become depressed in the wintertime. So here we have my water bottle, which I'm using quite simply. Everybody's got these things everywhere, right? So I'm cutting off the top right here, okay? Doesn't really require a whole lot of measurement, and no, I'm not gonna leave this in my garden, all this trash. Okay, cutting off the bottom, boom, okay? Now I have hole in my water bottle. I'm going to take this and slide it onto here. Really doesn't matter which end goes up, okay? Now I am going to stuff this guy with plastic bags. And the reason that I'm using plastic is, well, it's wet. This is going to be extremely, extremely wet. Remember, get both sides, okay? So you don't want material, fabric, right? Because if you use fabric, if fabric gets wet, what happens to it? Well, it molds, and that's just gross. And your RA patient having a compromised immune system because it is systemic, you certainly don't want them to be exposed to mold any more than they absolutely necessarily have to be unwittingly. So here, as you can see, and it's a little bit more messed up than the last one I did, but here we have a nice fat end to our garden hose, okay? Once again, we will grab our friendly duct tape, and this doesn't have to be beautiful, all right? This, we're just going to go nice, because what you want is maximum coverage. I would not recommend that you tie it off, like you seal it off all around the edges, and I'll show you why in just a second, okay? Okay, here we go. Not beautiful, but again, it's an outside tool. It doesn't have to be fantastic, and you're probably gonna end up replacing it a bit. This is why, okay? As a gardener, you're going to use your tools in a different way. You might want to reach a flower that's way out, or you might want to have it really close, okay? So you're gonna wanna move this thing around. But here I have a nice fat built up handle, so that someday when I get arthritis, I know what to do with my hose so that I can keep gardening. So there you have it. Different manners of built up handles. Remember to think about your environment so that you're not putting the wrong kind of materials in it, and also to think about your the uses of your tools so that you can make the right kind of modification, but more importantly, think about your client, because that's why we're here. Happy building up.